We are going to have a conversation on death. Good day, everyone, and welcome to New Answers Podcast. I'm Gwendolyn Flynn. For the past few weeks, we have been having conversations on spirituality, looking at spirituality as a means of finding solutions to our challenges personally, and I'm hoping that it can ripple out into the universe so that we can find challenges that the world is facing. And right now, we're being bombarded with a lot of challenges. And so that's sort of the premise behind this. And I am joined in this odyssey, as always, with Tiffany Lee. Hi, Tiffany.
Hi. Hello.
I'm glad to have you with me today, and we are going to have a conversation on death. Sounds like it's a dark thing, and how do you talk about this in terms of spirituality? Because in at least the center that I go to, Agape, looks upon death as I guess it's been talked about recently. It's the part of the circle of life, right? You're born, you live, you die, but you die. Your physical body is no longer embodying you as a spiritual person. Like, it stops, but you as a spiritual person continues, and we call it transitioning. It's transitioning from the visible to the invisible. And this idea of death has been coming to me off and on over the last couple of weeks. And maybe it's because as I get older, I get closer to that time of possibly transitioning. We're all going to transition at some point, right? And maybe that's the other reason that it keeps coming up. I don't know. What are your thoughts about death and dying, Tiffany?
Well, so first of all, I think death is extremely spiritual. You know what I mean? So it's not an unusual thing. It is something that has to come up. And I think it's a really good conversation to come up because I do believe there's no fear. There should be no fear of the transition. So maybe we should change the word of it. It's funny because I mentioned I was taking a nap before the show, and I think, viewing a previous lifetime with a partner of mine that every so often I go into a dream about me in I think like Egypt or India, and he's there. And it's probably my third dream like that about us being, where I just see a vision of it or whatever. So there's that. There's, no, our souls, our spirits don't die. It's transition. And I don't know if, I don't know for sure if it's in that we also choose when we're in heaven what kind of experience we're going to have for our soul down here. My joke is, we have our soul families. So my joke is, like, Gwen, you're probably in my soul family, that when we're back up in heaven and I'm choosing a life, that if I decide I want a really hard life, slap me. Like, no, because I've had a hard life. So I have a couple different experiences. One is when I was young, when my grandfather died, he started coming to me almost immediately in my dreams, give me messages, comfort me or give me messages. And he came so often that I never missed him. I never felt like he was gone. Like, in fact, I forgot. Like, I would be somewhere with family members and they'd be like, when Granddaddy died, I was like, Granddaddy died. And then I'd have to remember, like, oh yeah, he did die. But he was coming to my dream so much. So, because what do we miss? We miss their presence. So yes, people are still around, but they're just not in the 3D.
Right.
When my best friend died, right before, she was really scared. And she had no faith that she ever practiced, so she didn't know what to expect. And so I told her my personal experience just to give her comfort. And that was when it was just random evening. I was with my boyfriend at the house. The kids were gone. I went to the restroom. I was coming back and I felt it happening. I felt something happening and I fell to the ground. And so from my experience, when that happened, I went to a dark place, but wasn't like a scary dark place. I feared I I had a recognition that I died and I got scared for my kids for I can't even say a whole second. Like the fear started to come and then I was like told they're fine. And it wasn't and it was just like they're fine. They'll be fine. And I knew that everything would be fine. And it was this amazing peace that came over me. It was a very short time that I was gone from my perspective. When I came back, the ambulance were there. And I guess my ex-boyfriend, who was a paramedic, he's the one that had told them my heart had stopped. He was trying to do CPR. When I started the process of coming back, I then started hearing him calling my name, and became aware of where I was again here. And I was mad when I came back in.
Man.
Then I was mad. Then it was like the weight of the world hit me again. Like as I was laying there, you felt the gravity, you felt everything. So those are the two things I think about: peace beyond any understanding. And when I came back, the weight of the world on me, like earth compared to the afterlife. Even though I didn't even get to the part where like lots of people that experienced it when they have their life review and all those things, I didn't
Yeah.
have that. I have from what I've heard, you go to the dark space is actually kind of like a healing room. So it's before
Oh,
you move on. And so I made it to the healing room. And then I called it the dark space because it was like a nothing space. There's nothing there. But it wasn't scary. It was peaceful. It was wonderful. You felt the presence of love. Um, and then I had to come back. So yeah, I was upset when I just was like, let me out. I want to go back to bed. And I went back to bed and I was just trying to get that feeling again. And I never did. So for a long time, for probably a couple years, I would be like, God, why did you send me back to this type of life? You know what I mean? That's just so mean. But
wow, what an interesting story to tell. Um, Lots of questions there that I have. What you said that you knew something was happening, but I guess it happened so fast that you didn't have time to think about what before you passed out, I guess, right? And you were
yeah, it was like I felt, oh, I guess the best way to explain it, I felt my life leaving me.
you
my
did?
my body was like, yeah, I felt this energy. Not, and I'm saying my life leaving me because I really never thought about it until now, this very
Yeah.
moment. But I do remember feeling something, and it was like an energy leaving me before I hit the floor.
Okay. And that was immediately before you hit the floor. So,
Yeah.
like with the question I had about the Pope, I wondered if he knew the life was leaving him, like the day before. Like I said, he actually died because he was so active in the day,
So
hours leading up to his death. It was like, did you know you were going to go? And that's why you
probably did. I
try
mean,
to
he was
plan all this stuff,
he was in critical care for like
right? For a
weeks
month.
before, right? And then he had just come out. So um when my dad was dying, and when my dad was dying, one, and I hear this is common, he started seeing ancestors, relatives. Um, so so weeks before, you
Yeah.
know, he
Uh-huh.
wasn't really spiritual, so that was weird for him.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, um, and what they say sometimes is when someone is right before death, they get a last birth of life force energy.
Mm.
So probably what happened with the Pope and was he knew he was sick. If you know you're sick and you know that you're going to die, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
True.
um, for him to have that energy though, to talk
Yeah.
to all people, he
Yeah.
probably was using that last life force of energy that happens right before death.
Hmm. Hmm.
And he's obviously, the Pope, probably very, very spiritual. He probably was communicating with many spirits.
True. True. Probably.
Yeah.
And were you at the time that you went into this dark place, but it was, it felt like a place that you wanted to be there. You wanted to always be there. Were you spiritual at that time? Were you into spirituality at that time or no?
Not like this. I was
Okay.
deep into my Christianity at that time.
Okay.
But spirituality has been a part of my life always, like as we discussed, but if I wasn't doing anything um like I do now, like I do tarot cards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I don't think you have to pursue, you can pursue spirituality. I never had to pursue it. It was just kind of always, I'm a Pisces, so it's more natural for a Pisces to be connected.
Yeah.
Um, so like I said, as a little girl, we used to talk to my grandfather, and as an adult, not as much. He was there a lot as a little girl. As an adult, he would come for certain important moments, like when my first husband was dying in the hospital. I didn't see it, and that's kind of like my personality. I'm there every day. I'm trying to be positive. I'm going to work and going to the hospital, blah, blah, whatnot. I know he's sick, but we were in our 20s. I was like, but he'll recover, type of thing. So I didn't notice what was happening. And the night before, I had a dream, and it was my grandfather and my husband standing at a park, and I was across the street. And so they were at the park, and I asked my grandfather, I was like, why is he over there? And he's like, Mustafa's with me now, Tiffany. And then I woke up, and then I saw how my husband was dying, that he had already shut down.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. So, one of the reasons we're having these conversations is like, I think you said when you were relaying the story that even though you probably weren't as deeply into spirituality at that time as you are now, you were more into Christianity. But but these occurrences, these kind of experiences that we have that are on the spiritual plane are happening all the time. But we're having these conversations so that we can sort of elevate the fact that they are happening, to bring it to the attention of folks who are having these, so that you don't just dismiss it, right? Don't dismiss it. Like these are signs of our spiritual selves,
Right.
and they are giving us messages of some kind. And so, like, pay attention to it. That's why we're having this conversation. So I haven't had, well, there's lots of things I want to say here, but I am not afraid of death. And recently, and I think it's because of the spiritual track that I've been on, and how I'm learning and realizing that the spirit is the thing, right? You're just the body is holding the spirit and the soul, and the body has an expiration, shelf life, I guess, right?
Right.
Expiration date is what I'm trying to say. But the spirit doesn't, and the soul doesn't. It keeps going. And so I guess that has given me some consolation and comfort in terms of dying. So I'm not afraid of dying, because I think I will continue to live on. And I think I said this before, I think that we are here for a reason, that there is a purpose for us to be here. And what I heard from you, I'm like, even though you had gone into this sort of holding space, and you felt at peace and didn't want to come out of it, the divine spirit said, no, it's not your time.
I know. And I do feel like that's the thing. I
Yeah.
do feel like you have a particular time you're going to be here.
Yep.
I'm not scared of death, but I am conscious of if I have a time I have to be there here. And um and if it's a long time, I want to make sure I'm healthy. And you know what I mean? Like I don't want illness.
Yeah.
That's where my focus is. I want to be able to live the fullest life possible, when
Yeah.
it comes because that's not the crossover, it's not the scary part. It's the being
Yeah.
here, you know, not being able to enjoy it and have the fullest life possible. So that's why I have a lot of focus on natural healing.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand that. I understand that. And then I guess I wanted to relay a story that my sister told me. So my youngest sister, she's 6 years younger than me, and she's had a lot of health challenges in her life. And a couple of years ago, she fell, and I guess hit her head, and so her she had a brain hemorrhage.
Mm,
And I'm hearing from other people who I relayed this to that usually brain hemorrhages are fatal.
yeah.
I don't know how. Is it? Okay. I didn't know that. She's still around, obviously. But she told me that when she was in the hospital, I guess she was in the hospital. I don't know. Anyway, she had an experience in which found herself in a room somewhere with a bunch of strangers, people she didn't really know.
Hmm.
Um, and she heard them talking. I don't think she could interact with them though, like, as I recall what she said to me. She couldn't interact with them, but she was there, and I think she could hear not only the people in the room talking, but she could hear the doctors, I guess, working on her. And pretty soon, I don't know how long, what kind of time transpired, but she soon as she left that room and she, became conscious again and was, fully in her body and aware of what was going on. Well, aware that she was now in the hospital and that, doctors were working on her. But for that span of time that she was in this room, she had her explanation for it was that she thought she had crossed over for a minute, and she was in a room of people who probably were in either a holding pattern or had fully crossed over, because she didn't know who they were. It wasn't like they were like people who she knew had already crossed over. It was other people, other strangers.
Right.
And I thought, oh, interesting. So for you to say, what you said, it kind of made me think about, because I forgot about that, the story that my sisters shared. Uh,
Yeah. It sounds like to me though, with what may have happened with her is it just kind of holding room. I feel like probably when she was in that state when they're having the operation,
yeah,
and like she said that she could hear them operating on her, that she did leave, her spirit and soul did leave the body, but was hovering around, probably
oh,
still connected, you
yeah,
know, and possibly the other people were all in the same, so they could see each other, but maybe they weren't on the same plane or they weren't meant to communicate, but they were all like out of their body going
yeah,
through whatever at that time, but not their time to move on.
right.
Probably the angel spirit knew that no, they're going to go back into the body. They just don't have to be there with all this surgery and stuff like that
Yeah,
happening.
I
That's interesting. I'd love to talk to her. I'd be like, what did it look like?
I know.
I know, because it was after my experience, not even soon after, it was years after that I started researching, because you can go on YouTube and Google that,
Mhm.
um, afterlife experiences. And so there's a lot of people that have it. There's a lot of people that get to go further than like I did.
Mhm.
So I probably would have fought harder to stay. I'm like, you're not sending me back.
And that's interesting too. Like, you don't have a choice in this, right?
You
It's like
don't.
you
No, in
don't have
fact,
a
it was a friend of mine, probably just 5 years ago when I really started looking into it, that I
choice.
brought it up. I told her about it.
Hmm.
and the only reason why it came up too, like to me, this was just a personal thing. It wasn't anything really.
Yeah.
Um, like, and she was like, she's the one that told me, like, there's a lot of people that go through this. And she's like, and everyone says they get mad when they have to come back, or a lot of them say they're mad when they have to come back. They're upset about being back. Oh, Gwen, in our networking group, there's a therapist there, and that's what she specializes in. People that have crossed over and come
Oh
back and have to reintegrate.
my gosh. And had to reintegrate? Really?
Yeah, so they probably went further. But I will say that, yeah, I went at least a couple years just kind of like just mad, like why am I back here? Like why couldn't I stay? You know, so
Mhm.
it wasn't until my kids got older when I was like, I'm glad I stayed, you know. I would have
Yeah.
missed out on that. But when you first come back, you just remember that so strongly. You know what I
Mm.
mean? It's been so many years that I remember that it was a
Mm.
peace and great feeling, but I don't remember it well enough to be like upset that I'm not there anymore. Now I'm back here and I'm able to integrate into this world. I guess we'll say integrate. I'm here and I'm, you know, it's
Mhm.
not so horrible anymore.
Mhm. Yeah. But so it's just fascinating to me that to realize that we are not the deciders of that. You know, we can't choose to leave, even though we're feeling sort of this ecstasy being in this other place. You know, we can't stay there if it's not.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know for sure because I had a sister-in-law that killed herself,
Mm,
and she attempted suicide off a lot since high school. Like I knew her since high school.
mm,
The last time she did it though, there was no way for her to come back from that. And when she did go,
mhm,
so I wonder, like, I do feel that in my experience, not
mhm,
with this one, I've had other experiences as a child, like being hit by a car or drowning, and then always just ending up okay. That it was just never my time, so I get rescued from it. You know, my ex-husband, the one after the one that died, my ex-husband was like, "You live recklessly. Are you trying to stay alive or not?" But I think because I had so many experiences of like a miraculous experience of like incidents where I was like, I probably should have died and I was absolutely okay. Like I woke up on the other, like I got hit by a car once as a child. And from my kids, that the kids I was with, what happened was I was rollerblading down. Remember back in the days where we skated in the neighborhood? So it was a house with a hill.
oh,
So
sure.
yeah, so I was rollerblading down, but the neighbor had pulled out, didn't see me, so I knew I was about to hit the car, and um, and I did hit. I didn't feel it. I didn't feel it. The kid said it knocked me in the air, flipped all the way across the street. And that's when I woke up across the street, completely, as far as I know, uninjured. Because here's the thing, as a kid, you're like, I feel fine. So they're like, are you okay? And my brothers are there. I was like, yeah. They were like, okay, so let's go. Because we had all like snuck out the house. That it was back in the day we had to take naps. We all snuck out the house to like go to the mall. And they were just like, I woke up and everyone's staring at me. And they're like, oh my gosh, she flipped in the middle of the street and blah blah blah. This is kid life though, right? I mean,
I know. And nothing broke, no bones broke, no. Amazing.
no, I got up and continued skating. Don't remember anything, but children are
Yeah. Yeah. Little just take chances. But because you were probably so carefree, like you didn't stiffen up so that when you landed, you didn't break anything. You know what I mean? That's probably
yeah.
why you came out of it.
I kind of think that when I was young, so when I was young, I remember feeling like this isn't it. I think I'm that person where, you sometimes hear like there's some people that never feel like they belong.
Yeah.
I always felt like, why? I think I always had a feeling of like, why am I here? This isn't great. So there's that time, and then there was a couple times where like I'm swimming in the ocean. I love the ocean, and I got caught in a tidal wave, and I couldn't make it out of it. Did I tell you the story?
No, I don't
Couldn't
remember it.
make it
No.
out of it, and it was like fifth grade or something, and I just kept, because it was a set. It was like Redondo Beach. Redondo has really, it's a great surfing beach, but the water can be pretty rough at times. So I knew how to dive under waves and stuff like that. The thing is, the wave came, I dived under it. I didn't know that it was a set of waves coming. I didn't know about sets back then.
Yeah.
So when I dived under, expected to come up after the wave, but I kept coming up and coming up and coming up, and I never got to the top. And I ran out of breath and I got exhausted. And my thought was, okay, Daddy, I'm coming home. And then I woke up on the beach. No one around me. I just got up and went wherever. So again, very young, not really thinking about it. And that happened to me like 2 other times. And what I always say is, okay, Dad, I guess I'm just coming home. And then I end up on the beach. So what I think that what it is um it's like manifesting. It's like I stopped fighting. I
Uh,
released myself, and was rescued, by angels or lifeguards. I don't know. Like I get to the point of passing out, and then I wake up on the beach.
that's
I
amazing.
do know that when a lifeguard is rescuing someone, they do have to wait till that person gets exhausted. So I don't know if that's what happened. I would have thought that I would wake up and they'd be around me.
Sure.
But
Waiting for you to become conscious. Yes.
right. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
And so when you were saying, "Okay, Daddy, I'm coming home," what daddy are you referring to?
God, I've always called God Daddy or Papa.
Okay. So yeah, that was then definitely a release. Like
Hmm.
you surrender, and then the divine spirit saved you. Because you said there was nobody else around, right? And
Not
so
when I
you
woke up, but
found
yeah.
yourself on the beach. Yeah. So I'm sure that's not sure, but I mean, I can speculate that that's probably what happened.
Yeah, but those incidents are why I think that we only go when it's our time.
It's their time, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I could be wrong. I don't know, but I do think that has a lot to do with it. But
Mhm.
at a certain point, I realized, probably just the last few years, that, once menopause hit, like, well, if I'm going to live a long time, I want to live healthy. I don't,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, that's the thing with me too. I don't want to be incapacitated. I don't want to be dependent on, you know, something or someone else necessarily
right.
older. Um, and I have this sort of Peter Pan like theory mentality anyway. Like not that I won't grow up, but I don't want to grow old and become like decrepit and doddering old woman. I don't want to be that. I
Yeah.
want to be healthy.
You won't. I'm sure you won't.
No, I'm determined.
Right.
I'm
Exactly.
determined
We
to
do create our life and our minds. And so if you say you're not going to, and you're doing the work, but that's my goal too, yeah.
yeah. So and I already warned my son I'm going to be around until probably my mid 90s, if not later. So get ready.
Well, I tease my kids. I was like, even if something happens to me, I'm going to be around. I'm going to purposely be around. I'm going to start moving stuff. And you're going to be like, Mom's here. I'm going to write on the wall.
Oh yeah, and then and so and I didn't even think beyond. So I was talking to him about in terms of being the visible person. I'm going to be here, the visible person, until my 90s. I didn't even think beyond the invisible person.
Right.
Like I know I will be. My spirit will be around somewhere. Soul will be around somewhere. I even talked to him about that. But yeah, for sure, that's going to be part of it too. And so get ready.
Right.
This is fascinating. I don't know why this subject keeps coming up. Like I said, since the death of the Pope and the way he was, and I can see your explanation about this. He had been sick for about a month or so, maybe
Hmm.
in that, right? Hospitalized for that length of time. So he probably knew his time was coming.
Hmm.
Um, spurred him to be so active in the days leading up to his death.
I wonder, being that um, people tend to have ancestors and spirits come to them when they're in that stage. I had a couple when my dad was dying. I had a couple death doulas I talked to. One was a death doula, and one was a hospice person. So, if you work with dying people, you would you'd be able to answer all these questions. But they were the ones that told me like they're in a in between state for a while, in
Oh,
between there, yeah. So they could be really unconscious, and then all of a sudden they can get up and be like, I'm taking myself to the bathroom, or they'll get up and start talking to you and whatnot. And um, that literally did happen with my dad. His last day, he was getting up and going to the bathroom. My mom said he had got up and sat on the edge of the bed and was holding like a baby, talking to a baby. And we don't know who that baby was, by the way. We have no idea.
mm-hmm.
Maybe someone in the family had a miscarriage or something. Um, and yeah, he was able to get up, go to the bathroom, then went back to bed for a few hours, and then he was not anymore. But the hospice person tells you that they can hear you. The body's just shutting down. Oh, the death doula and hospice person told me that the soul will practice coming and going, in and out.
You say practice?
Practices leaving the body, in and out. So that's why they get this like anxiousness. I remember my dad one day waking up and he was still it was before the last week, or it was the beginning of the last week, where he was still very present. And I was the one taking care of him. So that morning, before I went to go do an open house, he was sitting in the chair by his bed, and he was like, Tiffany, I took my medicine myself. I'm really, really anxious. I just feel so anxious. I don't know what to do. And it's stressing me out. And I was like, well, the hospice did leave us some anti-anxiety medicine you haven't needed to use. So let me give you some of that. And so I did. And that numbed him down to like, from that point, he never really came back fully to his body. Then it was the process of the in and out and stuff like that. But then so the death doula told me that that anxiousness was the soul getting ready to leave the body and something like that. Anyway,
Oh my.
not the funnest part about death. I will say that part of death is sucks. It sucks. It sucks probably for that person. It sucks for the family. I I would love to know. I just want to be one of those persons that has a great life, and then because I hear about these, and then they go to bed one day, and and then they wake up, and they don't wake up. Like,
Mhm.
I don't want to be sickly. I don't want my body to break down like that. I want to be active, and then one day go to bed.
And not wake
Yeah,
up. That's my ideal too. It really
yeah.
is.
And I heard that Native Americans, they used to do that they would just decide like, okay, like when they got old, when they're like, okay, I think it's time for me to go, say their goodbyes, go into their teepee and stay there until they pass.
That seems so civilized to me.
Right?
Well, that makes sense to me. Yeah, I could see doing that. I really could. So it's interesting to hear. I mean, you mentioned a death doula. There's birth doulas, and I guess so. There's a process for us to come into this world, and there's a process for us to leave it.
Right. Yeah. And as a friend of mine that decided she wanted to be a death doula. And I remember when she first said this, she was a massage therapist before. And I was like, Wow, interesting choice. But this is all before my dad got sick and everything. So once my dad got sick and once he went on hospice, she was extremely helpful to go through the process.
Yeah, I would imagine. I didn't know that there was such a thing. I'd heard about hospice care, and I would imagine that the folks who are involved, in the care of person in hospice have gone through some sort of, training and geriatrics and all of that. But I hadn't heard of a death doula before. I
Right.
before you mentioned it, and so that's fascinating to me, and especially for her to go from massage therapy to what it is, what it.
Well, she was more of a spiritual massage therapist. Like
Okay.
she knew how she knew how to connect with the body in a
Uh,
different way. So
okay.
if you
Oh,
ever go to a masseuse like that, it's amazing. I did that one time and they're like, "Did you have an injury that affected your back around here?" And I was like, "Yeah, I fell down the steps like a year ago." They're like, "Okay, well," they just talk to the body, feel the energy. They're like, "Okay, well, it was holding some tension here from it still, and then over here from it still." And I was like, "Okay, how do you know?" But he's like, so I'm letting your body know they can release the tension. It's safe, it's fine. And the pains I had for years from that fall, well, a year, had been a year, went away after that.
mhm. So, okay, so when you explain it like that, that makes sense to me. If this person was, you know, really in touch with, trained to feel what the body feels, and so
Hmm.
I can see how that is connected to, in terms of massage. You go from massage to death doula because you can feel, because it's our soul and spirit, is about the
Yeah,
energy, right? It's the energy that you are emitting, and
right.
they can feel that energy as it begins to dissipate, I guess, in the body.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I would make that choice, but yeah, I guess I never thought about it as far as like what made her make that choice. I thought it was odd too, because I personally did not want to be around dying people. Like I spent 3 years in the hospital with my first husband, who by the way didn't die that day.
Oh, okay.
Um he when I woke up and saw that he was dying, I called a minister friend and she had the gift of healing. So she came. So they expected him to die. He was unconscious. He woke up for a minute, and this reminded me of your sister. I woke up when I saw that after my grandfather's message. And then I was like, Mustafa was his name. I was like, Mustafa. And then he wasn't conscious all the day before. Then he woke up and he was like, Tiffany, I saw myself in the bed. I saw myself in the bed and they were rolling me someplace and no one saw me and I kept saying, "Hey, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here," whatever. So he had a weird dream too, but then he went back unconscious. It happened to be Thanksgiving weekend, so my his doctor was on vacation. His catheter was bleeding out, his stomach was swollen. That's how I knew. So I didn't see it in my head the day before, but when I woke up, I saw the swollen stomach. So I don't know if you've been in hospitals where people are dying, but that
No.
was something I recognized being in the cancer hospital. When the body shuts down, the belly swells and becomes poisonous basically because they can no longer go to the bathroom.
Oh, okay.
And so
Yeah.
when someone is in a really bad state, the nurses will ask, "Did they go to the bathroom?" They check how often they go to the bathroom because they can monitor how the body's shutting down. So I didn't even recognize that he didn't go to the bathroom. I remember a nurse said something to me the day before, and I was like, "Why did she say that?" You know, because she asked me, um, "Oh, here's what we talked." She asked me, "I hope that you don't regret. You guys were so young. I hope you don't regret this decision to go through the cancer treatment." And I was like, "No, I mean, why would I do that?" Because they all knew he was dying. I didn't yet. And then she said, "You just never," she's like, there's no, she's like, you just never know. There's people that die that we feel like shouldn't have, and there's people that come through things that we feel like, how did that happen? Like all the time. She said typically if they have some sort of religious faith, and it doesn't matter, they have a stronger chance of living through things. So I was just like, okay. Didn't know why she had this conversation with me, you know, and I was sleeping in the room, by the way. So when I woke up after that, then I was like, oh, I wasn't noticing. So he was so half dead. So his catheter kept bleeding out that day because he wasn't clotting anymore. So I spent the day just holding it right there. And um, because the pastor I called couldn't come until after work, and she was a female pastor with like a home church, and a friend of mine had told me about her. I actually didn't know her yet. My workmate had told me about her because she had gone to like a home Bible study and was like cheering people on the spot and stuff like that. So I called her, like we called her, and she agreed to come. So she came and started singing over her. And my ex-husband was from Africa. So then she started singing in, I mean, he spoke English, it was Liberia, but she did start singing in a, another language. And he came too. And I think it was first the bleeding stopped. And then she continued singing, and then he came too. And she was like, and he was like, like, what's going on? And she was like, Mustafa, God told me you're not done yet. And she stayed with him. She's like, do you want to try and sing with me? And keep in mind, he had been unconscious for 2 days. And he was like, okay. And she started singing a song. She's like, do you know this song? And he like nodded, yeah. So he like didn't really sing, but he started like, kind of singing a little bit. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was just sitting down like in awe,
Yeah.
and tired because I literally been standing all day holding the blood. And then she was like, pray with me over him. So I did. And then he was like, she was there for only an hour. And then she's like, you're going to be okay. God told me you're going to be okay. Your time is not done yet. And then she left. And then right after she left, he said, I have to go to the bathroom. And I was like, oh my God, I called the nurse. I was like, he has to go to the bathroom. And they were like, what? And they pulled, like, three nurses came and they brought a thingy to pick him up to put him in the bathroom. And that started the recovery. So he did recover. It took a year still, but he did recover. Um, yeah, it was like a few years later when he died out of,
Yeah.
like, he was at work, he had a stomach ache and whatever. So, but yeah.
Oh my goodness, what a story. Oh, but yeah, so the time in which we die, death. Hmm. And did you say that your husband at the time was not really connected with a spiritual practice of any kind, or religion or anything like that, or no?
Not really in Africa. I guess they were uh Catholic, not Catholic. What's the one close to Catholic?
Like Episcopal or
Yeah, some
Presbyterian?
Lutheran. They were Lutheran.
Oh, Lutheran. Oh, okay.
And so when he got sick, and keep in mind we're in our 20s, we were prior to this partying all the time. When he got sick, and while he was searching, it was leukemia. So he went in the hospital, came out. It was like a whole year of searching for like a bone marrow transplant and stuff like people. We started going to church, and we would go to Lutheran church and we go to a Baptist church, whatever. We started exploring that. He wanted to go, and so we did, but not a lot. Wasn't, you know, it was a very spiritual time for me though when he was in the hospital. I would go to work. Um, I was back in my Bible the way I was as a child, talking to Jesus. I would, before going into the room, I would sit before, it was a Catholic hospital, so I would sit before Mary and talk to her. And I felt her comfort me all the time and kind of let me know, like, what to talk about from the Bible, and I don't, yeah. And then, but it was spiritual. I wasn't going to church or anything like that. I felt really connected to God. There were times when I had so much joy in me. I remember driving there one day, and um, this overwhelming peace and joy came over me. And I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter what happens here on earth as long as we're close to you.
Yeah.
I just remember that moment. Like, yeah. And so sometimes I even say, like, man, that was such a great experience for that element of being so well taken care of by God, Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
and Mary, you know what I mean? Like all the elements, like they really, really comfort you. I think the Bible says, um, not, not I think it does. It says, Jesus says, lucky are the people that weep, for they will know that, lucky are the people that weep, for they will know the comfort of God, or something like that. And that's 100% truth. That
Mm-hmm.
was like, I got so comforted during that time, and it was perfect because I could walk into the hospital, into his room, and be full of joy. I could bring the joy because his mom had come and she was really depressed and he was really sick, and that depression, sadness, was, the room would be filled with that, and it was like my job to come in and bring the joy. And I
Yes.
would get that from the drive, talking to God and stopping and talking to Mary.
And it sounds like not only was it, the comfort or the joy that you brought to him, but in that time when he was sung to by that minister, it's like he made a connection,
Yeah, he
like
did.
that that carried him through for the next whatever year or two that he lived. And it's
Yeah.
what an astounding thing to happen and to a story to tell. Okay, so this has been fascinating conversation. Any of you listening to this have questions, related to
Or
spirit?
stories to tell. We'd love to hear about it.
If you have any experiences like this or similar to this or anything kind of connected to the uh, transitioning of life, we would love to hear from you. You can, place your comments in the section below this video, of course. And of course, I'm always going to ask you to subscribe so that you can be notified whenever we upload any new installation on our conversations regarding nurturing spirituality. But we definitely want to hear about your experiences, and maybe, who knows, we'll invite you to join us in these conversations and share what you've experienced or what you've heard about from someone. All right. So we hope that you have resonated with something that you heard here, and we look forward to hearing from you. I'm Gwendolyn Flynn.
I'm Tiffany Lee.
And we'll see you next time.